What's up everybody, it's the Tabletop Tyrant here, and I'm here to bring you guys and gals a video on how to paint Avatars of War's Iron Orc Warlord. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to you this paint tutorial. So the very first thing we're going to start off with is Wog Flesh by Citadel. I really like this color, however, I normally find it really hard to go directly in the Warboss green. So what we're going to do, I thin it down and I use a wet palette for this. And what we're going to do is just apply maybe a couple thin coats until we get good coverage all over the parts we want to be flesh, including the dead orc head on the back of them. Next, we're going to go into a 50-50 mix of Wog Flesh and Warboss Green. Now, Warboss Green, to me, is a fantastic green for an Orc Flesh tone. However, it doesn't cover that well over Wog Flesh, and it contrasts a little too much. So, ever since they've released these paints, I've always mixed them together, and I find that it allows for a very smooth, blended transition. So now that we did Wog Flesh and Warboss Green 50-50, we're going to go directly into Warboss Green. Now I'm going to be picking out the raised areas, starting to do my highlighting process. Really kind of leave the Wog Flesh in the recesses, and we're going to start picking out just the corners, the tips of muscle, maybe creating muscle lines and fibers on the model. And that's how we're going to start applying Warboss Green. Anything that you feel like you want to be picked out on the raised edges, hit with Warboss Green. Last but not least, a little plot twist here. We're going to go into Warboss Green with a 50-50 mix of Flayed One Flesh. I don't like Scarsnick Green, which I know like on the color palette tends to be the next thing if you use Citadel range. I like that little creamy look. And then again, just hitting the very tips, keeping the Warboss the main part of the muscle, and just really hitting the tips and bringing that pop out. So if you notice, I didn't do the orc head on the back of them, and that's because like I kind of wanted to look a little bit weathered or dead. So I went directly from Wog Flesh now that I have Flayed One out, and I just kept mixing Flayed One Flesh in there until the face looked a little bit of a pale dark green. I felt like when you're pumping full of blood, you tend to be a little bit more colorful, which is why maybe the Warboss would be a little bit brighter green. But this dude's toast, he's dead, and I wanted to maintain that Wog Flesh, that deep green, with more of a decaying lack of blood, been kind of stapled to his belt for a couple months. So next we're going to move into Pro Acryl. I personally really like Pro Acryl. I'm waiting for the rest of my paints to dry out or be used before I completely switch all my paints over to that range. However, we're going to be using dark magenta for the inside of the dead orc's mouth. We would have done it again as well for the living orc, but he's covered with a face mask. And now just for a quick highlight, I'm not going to break out another color. I'm just going to mix a little bit of Pro Acryl Ivory into the dark magenta to highlight the mouth a little bit. Okay, on to my all-time favorite red right now. So Pro Acryl has a burnt red and a bold pyro red, and I think to me they just produce such a beautiful cherry red or crimson red that it's really hard for me to go back to any other red colors. So without further ado, Pro Acryl Burnt Red. Okay, so now that we're done basing all the parts we want red with burnt red, we're going to go through and do a 50-50 mix of bold pyrrole red. Now, to anyone who may be new to that term or isn't aware of it, if I'm doing 50-50, it means I'm taking 2 drops of burnt red and 2 drops of bold pyrrole and mixing it together for an even consistency. I hope you're enjoying watching this tutorial. Not that I like shilling myself or anything, but it would help if you dropped a like and a subscribe. And if you want to share it with anyone that you know, that would be outstanding. It would just mean a lot to me. This is a lot of fun. I love doing it. Editing, I could go without a little bit, but you know what? I love doing this stuff, and it's an extension of my hobby that I get to share with a bunch of people. So if you could share it as well, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you very much for your time. So now we're doing bold pyrrole red. So a big thing with this red, I want to just really leave it on the raised, anything that would be getting hit by sunlight, and I want to really leave that burnt red in the deep recesses and the 50-50 mix and pull it all up. So I'm moving more towards the top of shoulder pads, the line work of the helmet, anything like that where I feel like the sun would accentuate the highlight is where I'm really pulling out those lines. Last but not least, I'm going to do a bold pyrrole red 50-50 mix with Citadel Fire Dragon Bright. I love Fire Dragon Bright, and also it's like the one paint I have right now. So I'm mixing it in there, trying to get that orangish red, but I don't want to go too orange. And like I'm just going to kind of apply this like a line highlight in a way. So anything that's kind of really popped out, the edge of the helmet where the horns connect, maybe the eye lenses, the corners of the armor, anything around cracks or dents, I'm just going to be applying that to accentuate the crack and divot. Okay, so now that we're done with the bold pyro red and the fire dragon bright and the highlight on all the red armor, we're going to go to coal black, and we're going to pick out all the black bits of armor. I chose this to be more in theme with the Crimson Killers from the Orcs and Goblins 8th edition codex. So now that we finished putting coal black on all the bits we want to be black, we're going to move on to a 50-50 mix of blue black and coal black. Now, I like doing a bluish black highlight for armor to make it look more shiny in armor. If I'm doing a leather, I'll go more towards a gray. But I always thought the blue mixing with the black makes a great highlight for armor plate. Last but not least, blue black by Pro Acryl, just picking out the divots, the dents, anything that we want to really pop. Follow the same step we did for Fire Dragon Bright and Blue Pyro. Okay, so mid-paint job, I decided, you know what, it's not going to be orc here. That's some checkers on the weapon and some freehand throughout the orc. So I decided to do some checkers, and I did a neutral gray from Pro Acryl just to fill in the checkers. Now, if you can see, the sides are already done. That's because the front took me like 3 attempts to get decent. So don't feel bad if it doesn't come right away. It can be a little sloppy. It is an orc. But don't feel like this took easy amounts of time. It was a pain in the butt, and I had to redo it a few times. So now we're going to tidy up those checkers again with Coal Black by Pro Acryl. So right now, one of my all-time favorite metallics, especially for Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Warriors, Orcs, anything kind of a dark faction, I really am finding myself loving Iron Warriors just that much more. It's a nice deep metallic, and you can roll right into a highlight with Rimfang, Stormhost, or even Ironbreaker, or you can blend all the way up to Stormhost. A very, very good metallic color that by Citadel that I feel is very versatile. So now that we're here, I'm going to be adding my Runefang highlights. I'll be going through, kind of going against the axe, making it look nicked and chipped. I believe they call that feathering. I'm not too familiar with the nomenclature of words behind the specific paint schemes. So we're just going to kind of dab the brush into the axe to make it look chipped, nicked, sharp in certain areas and duller in others. And then we're going to go around as well and pick out all the studs and all the spikes we did in Iron Warriors. All right, phew. Now that we're done with all those studs, we're gonna move into dark umber, and I'm gonna be using that to pick out any bits of leather, wood, the wood spikes on his back, all that nonsense, just to start getting it going. His nails, teeth, all of it. Everything's gonna be dark umber. Alright, so now that we've done the dark umber, we're going to go through and slowly mix in ivory from Pro Acryl. And I'm just going to keep mixing it up until I'm getting the color I want for all those different objects, including the banner, the nails, the teeth, all the stuff that we painted dark umber. I'm going to start highlighting. I like to add ivory to it rather than wash and do a bunch of different colors, because I can blend in and go as high as I want. I can leave the wood haft of the axe darker, and I can bring the nails out to a dirty color, and I can bring the teeth out to the bone color they need to be. Blending in that color makes it really easy to not just keep going back and forth the paints and opening pots or dripping dripper bottled paint onto your palette. It just makes it faster, in my opinion. And for the most part, you're not going to need a wash unless maybe you want to do a little oil wash at the end. Alright, so we got the dead human head on the spike. We're going to go through, hit that with Cadian Flesh Shade, and then I'm also going to wash it with Golem Flesh Contrast Paint, re-highlighting it with Cadian Flesh Shade, and then also doing an edge highlight of Flayed One Flesh. I believe on the underside of the neck I also hit it with Dark Magenta, just to kind of give it a chopped look. You can totally leave that up to you though. Alright, time for the part that I freaking hate. Eyeballs. So we're going to go through and we're going to add coal black to the eye sockets. Now what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start bringing in the bright neutral gray, and I want the eyes to look like they're rolled up. So I'm going to start just covering the black with the bright neutral gray and leaving the dots. Now as you can see, I took too much of the coal black away, so I'm going to start re-adding it to get the pupils to look right how I want them. Alright, so we got the skulls on top of the trophy rack. We're going to do that bright neutral gray. I like it. I don't have to do much to pop it out. It looks like a really good color, and Pro Acryl does such a fantastic job with its grays and whites that you don't really have to worry about it chalking up on you. It's absolutely wonderful. It was game changing, and I'm glad that my buddy turned me on to this paint set. Now we're on to that dude's crown. I'm guessing he wasn't doing too hot when he got his noggin chopped off. But we're going to give him a nice looking crown. We're going to go Pro Acryl Rich Gold. Back to another metallic color from Pro Acryl. Their metallics, fantastic. I love their bronze, and we're going to be doing Pro Acryl bronze to pick out all the little flashy bits on this orc. Time for some freehand to break up the paint scheme to make it look a little more orky. I'm going to do ivory, and I'm just going to do a bunch of triangles all over the place. It looks cool, simple, and it gives you a chance to practice making shapes. I normally do half the triangle and then do the other half the triangle. I don't do the whole thing at once. I find it easier when you freehand just to break it up into pieces, so that way you're not focusing too hard on making it just perfect symmetry. Alright, so we got the gems on the crown. We're going to do Pro Acryl Royal Purple, and again, I'm going to mix some ivory in that purple to bring the highlight out after I go through and base coat it. So next is the hair on the skeleton wearing the crown. I'm going to go XV88, and I'm going to do a highlight as the Messy Desert to kind of make it look blonde. Last but not least, it's not an Orc War boss, a little tad bit of freehand on the back of that banner. I went with a dark magenta and then a 50-50 mix with ivory as it came time to highlight. And again, I picked something simple, a little mouth, I did teeth. As you can see, I mess up, but it's okay to fix a mess up like that. Again, break it down into sections, keep it separated. If it looks a little sloppy, you can get away with it because he's an orc. He's not a BSB or anything, so he probably just doesn't have a very good quality of himself of being able to draw. So my guy, I think it came out all right. Woo! Okay, last but not least, that was a long one. I think I hit somewhere around 28 minutes of tutorial. I tried to really chop it down for y'all, but it was just not happening. I really didn't want it to be this long. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. Any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop it down below in the comments. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to the next video. Peace.